I'd like to speak for a brief moment on this one idea of depression equals self-absorption. For those that love to study metaphysics and epistemology and consciousness and awakening, I want to right away introduce a direct point about this is that you cannot be depressed if you have a self. So just notice that, something that I realized. And there's something around depression in general, which I realize is very self absorbed. It's very me, 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 me. It's not focused on others, it's focused on yourself. When I'm in depressed states of consciousness, to whatever degree that may be, I'll notice my mind circling in down these rabbit holes of stories of how I'm not good enough and oh well look at that, like you've become some sort of loser and all this kind of ways, blah 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 blah, and yet you should be here by now but you're not, and you're behind, all these kind of messages that the gremlin will come up with and start to tell you. And I've noticed as soon as I focus on someone else or something else, such as deep learning, to take my attention off of it, the depression lifts. So it makes me think, what is the depression really about? Now, to what degree I have depression, or especially in the clinical sense, debatable, right? People with real clinical depression will have trouble even uh, doing, getting out of bed, doing basic movements and stuff like that. Yeah, I've experienced that to some degree, but there's extremes to this stuff. So, and I've also experienced having lows for multiple days and uh, even weeks at a time. And whether that's due to my actual brain chemistry or whether, within genetics and stuff like that, or whether it's due to having less going on in my life in this chapter, whether it be me having more solitude and having less people around me, less people to talk to, and not really plugging myself in at this moment. These are all factors. I've noticed with that in a large amount of desire to engage in some more volunteer work just for this reason. Because I've noticed as soon as I volunteer, or as soon as I focus my time on someone else in some way, just even in a conversation, just striking up a conversation with someone, I've noticed that my depression will lift, or that mood of that self-talk will lift. And even long after that conversation, especially if it was a decent one, my doomerism, or that doom and gloom thinking, will lift for quite a while there. And so just a little reminder for myself. And it does get me curious though, bringing up in that first point I brought about how you can't really be depressed with the self. It reminds me of how Eckhart Tolle got his awakening. It was through deep, deep suffering. He was deeply suicidal, and he was suffering so deeply, he just eventually got curious and he started questioning, well, who is it that is suffering right now? And for him, he spiraled so deeply into that thought that he broke through and had a realization that there was no self and there was no self to suffer, as you can observe it in this present moment. And this present moment is perfect and divine. And so Eckhart Tolle had an awakening into the true nature of reality, which is great, you know, and it diminished a lot of the suffering. And he spent, I think, years or months like just sitting on park benches, just enjoying the bliss of the moment. So, you know, um, crazy story of how awakening occurs. And oftentimes, a lot of awakening occurs through a lot of suffering. It's very common to have an awakening paired with suffering. It's very interesting to see that, and how much that suffering is coming from the ego, the sense of self. And so, just a little pointer around if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling down, notice the stories that's going on in your mind. Notice the narratives. Notice maybe a reduced feeling of self-importance or place in the world or purpose. There's like maybe these stories around, well, you don't matter, or people don't value you for you or your skills, or you're not lovable, all these kind of things. And all it takes is for some additional contradictory experiences to help blast through those feelings and those beliefs. But when we're just kind of isolated, one of the worst things we can do when we're depressed is to isolate. Because then our thoughts can fester and start to manufacture reality. And our mind will start to manufacture reality in lieu of having any contradictory evidence. So we will just start to believe the machinations of our mind, start to believe all the thoughts that our mind constructs, and we'll believe it that's actually true. And so one of the best ways to bust all these limiting beliefs and bust all these negative thoughts, negative thinking, is to get yourself some of that direct experience. There can be, I know for me especially, I'll have a lot of thoughts around me not being lovable, me not being desirable, me not being one to be desirable as a life partner, because I haven't had a sufficient level of experience in having relationships. So as a result, my brain or my mind will start to rationalize it. Well, it's because you're not good enough, and it's because of this, because of this, because of this. Whereas an equally true rational statement is simply, you haven't had that experience. For whatever reason, you just haven't had that experience. And, you can have all this other stuff, but what ends up happening is you'll feel a certain way, and you won't allow those emotions to permeate through. You won't breathe those emotions. You won't just see those emotions for what they are. And then your thoughts will start to feed off that loop from your bodily sensations. And because we don't allow these emotions to come through and to process them, we create what we resist. So we resist these emotions, and we'll go into our vices, and we'll go into our YouTube and eat our eating addiction and chips and weed or whatever it is for you, to shift their state of consciousness, to distract ourselves, because we don't want to feel those negative feelings. But if we actually allow those negative feelings, such as using the Sedona method, as welcoming all those feelings, even welcoming the desire to change it or to push it away, and to allow ourselves to even invite all of that feels personal about those feelings, and to hold it all in our consciousness, in our awareness, and directly just sit with it and be with it, and even letting go the need for it to change. Breathing through it, doing some Kriya breath work, and even allowing yourself to, just for a moment, drop it. Pick it up again, drop it. Pick it up again, drop it. To realize that these are just thoughts. These are just temporary states of consciousness that are distracting you from this perfect moment of being. It's a good note to put in the back of your mind that every single moment is perfect, divinely perfect. And any thought that it is not, for whatever reason, you can get curious about, why is that the case? And you can work through your emotions with that assumption in mind. It's a safe assumption to have. And notice and be curious around, how am I constructing this suffering? How is my sense of self contributing to this suffering, to this depression, to this bad feeling? And even just sitting with it and noticing in our body, and maybe even doing some bilateral tapping, butterfly taps, something to help move the emotion through your body and to help your body work through it. That's why, exercise, of course, has helped many people going for a run, right? That's also bilateral movement, or doing some heavy weightlifting. I know for myself, I will have actually processed some deep emotions through doing 100 burpees, where I'll do a push up or two push ups in between. I remember when my dog Leah passed away, and that was ethereal for me. That was a lot of emotion there. That was the whole day where we had to put her down, and I noticed that was one of those moments where I just needed to regulate the body. And oftentimes, so much of our upset comes from a body that's not regulated. So, if you're noticing yourself being depressed, think, okay, what am I doing right now to regulate my body? Am I giving myself enough sleep? Sometimes we need to just sleep it off. And then the next thing is, are you getting yourself that vigorous exercise? 20 minutes of that high intensity exercise. It has to be high intensity there. Very, very important. And then also, are you cleaning yourself? Actually taking a shower does reduce stress. We don't quite understand it, whether it's like hormones or whatever. There is something about the process of actually physically cleaning yourself that reduces stress. Uh, when you walk into a room and something happens, or dogs can like sniff fear on people. There's something about pheromones that our body releases, and it lives on our skin, and our body is taking a cue from that. Something like that. I'm not very aware of what that is, but I know there's something to that. And where having a shower can actually dramatically change your mood and how you feel, and that feeling of renewal. So do not underestimate that. Don't underestimate how much cleaning your environment can make you feel better. I know for a fact that whenever I'm just completely messed, completely turned around, and I've been addicted to dopamine fishing all day, every day, I will just put my phone down, and if I'm so addicted, I'll put a podcast on, right? Because I'm just so addicted to that stimulation. And then I'll start cleaning my room. I'll have a phone call and I'll just be cleaning, 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 cleaning. Especially when I'm really stressed, I notice I'll just naturally start cleaning right away as well. And you get this huge renewed sense of peace when you actually completely clean and organize your room and organize your space. So, just to recap, right? We've got Sedona method, we've got Kriya, yoga breath, we've got taking a shower, we've got cleaning your environment, we've got, doing inquiry and sitting with that emotion and those thoughts, and to really understand, and deconstruct it and contemplate, how am I creating this feeling of depression right now? There's focusing on others, focusing on another person, whether it's through volunteering or just striking up a conversation, or having a phone call with someone. There is the exercise, vigorous exercise, at least 20 minutes of it. So even high intensity training, cardio, there's tons of YouTube videos of HIIT workouts. They're very easy to do, but they get that heart rate up. Great stuff for shifting that mood. And writing, I'm going to add that in too. Oftentimes writing can help process a lot. Although I found sometimes writing can just get me deeper down into an avenue. So, maybe 5 minutes of a dump, and you set the timer, and then that rings. Then you do something else. Then you do some somatic practices or something. That bilateral stimulation, combined with the Sedona technique, where you just welcome in those thoughts and welcome everything about that, and the feelings, and not in the feeling of resisting it, and any part of it that's personal, and beautiful stuff. And that's just all to say, those are just all techniques to help regulate through difficult emotions like depressive feelings. But I really want to underline and highlight just how much depression is rooted in self-absorption. Just get curious on how, if you focus on other, how depression can lift. Get curious on why depression lifts when you distract yourself with a movie, with a YouTube video, with scrolling, with eating food, whatever. Why does placing your attention on anything but yourself help to diminish those feelings of depression? Get curious about that. And maybe through that, you might discover what kind of identities and standards you've been holding yourself up to judge yourself. Because ultimately, what's required here is to forgive yourself for whatever it is in your life, for however you feel, for however much experience you have being loved or not being loved, whether it's by your mom or dad or your friends or people intimately getting those one-on-one relationships, however many relationships you have had or haven't had, and however, if you had some uh, low quality relationships, maybe abusive relationships, and notice how all that can feed into your stories. Forgive yourself for going through all of that. Forgive yourself for exposing yourself to negative people. Forgive yourself for not knowing. Forgive yourself for not having the wisdom to act, the courage to act. Forgive yourself for maybe even knowing what to do, but still not following through for some reason. Forgive yourself for anything you can find. And literally say to yourself, I forgive myself. This can help a lot too with alleviating feelings of depression. Oftentimes, I've noticed for myself, these feelings of depression comes with high levels of self-judgment. And the feelings of, well, I should be here and I'm not. And all that entails, or I should be able to focus like this, and blah, 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 or I should be able to learn like this, I should be able to this, and this, and this. I should. When really, there are no shoulds in reality. Another one is I should have known. That's a huge one. And just a simple one to deconstruct that is, how could you have should have known at the time? That one took me a long time to understand. I was like mulling it over for hours. Like, what does that mean? How could I have should have known? And if that's for you, mull it over until it really clicks in your mind. Because that's a very powerful one to really release a lot of self-judgment that you may have. So that's my brief discussion on self-absorption and in its role in depression. And so if you're feeling any negative for some way, allow yourself to tap into the present moment and just be. Allow yourself to forgive yourself and use all the techniques at your that are available to you. After all, reframe this as a puzzle for you to solve, as something for you to figure out, as something for you to understand. That's one thing that has helped me a lot as well, push through difficult times, was just to get curious about it. Sometimes in my life, I've literally wanted to shift because I just don't want to be here. Sometimes I'm looking for what's that one thing that I can really grasp onto and actually be really motivated about, and I can't really find it. And sometimes the thing I'll just come up with is, well, I don't want to be here. So I'll do anything to just get me out of this state. So I'll take action. Notice any decisions that you're avoiding, any boundaries that you're avoiding setting. I noticed a huge thing with that helped me get out of ruts, get out of depressions, was just making a solid decision on taking action towards something to get me involved with something, whether it was just picking up some more work or picking up some volunteer opportunities. That I've noticed as well has significantly helped me and has changed my life and made significant impacts. And so there's that. And notice any area of your life that you're not taking responsibility. Oftentimes, I've found feelings of depression coming out of rooted in feelings of helplessness. And so take responsibility for absolutely everything. Take responsibility for your ability to change and open your mind that changing is available to you, and becoming a person that is focused or whatever it is that you need to become, that is available for you. And you have to find your way, working with your brain chemistry, working with your diagnosis or disorder or whatever it is. There exists a solution there for you, but there has to be a willingness and a curiosity around it. So open your mind to the possibility that there exists a set of insights that can get you from where you are to where you want to go. So if where you are is the bad life and to where you want to go, the good life, there exists a set of insights for you to get you from where you are right now to the good life. So open your mind to that one. Very, very powerful. And yeah, make a decision, get yourself going, take responsibility for absolutely everything so you're no longer getting that helplessness there. And yeah, uh, just to be deeply curious. And one thing I will leave you with here is uh, if you can do this, great. If you can't, don't worry about it. One thing I like to do is I like to kind of zoom out a little bit. If you can think of the opportunity to be here in life, to be in reality, to be in the dream, to be what is this mystical experience that we call life. Life is a 90-year long mystical experience. And what an amazing thing for us to be able to experience all these things. Even the bad parts, even the low parts. It still strikes me with a level of awe and wonder, even in the moments where I feel not good. Having a strong curiosity about it helps to really shift it and just reverence that, you know what, I get to be here, I get to participate in this dance that we call life. And I can choose how I want to play my cards that I'm dealt. And for whatever reason, I'm in this situation now, whatever. Every single morning, every single moment, we are born anew. We are born anew in each moment, and we have the choice to make a decision into who we want to be. What kind of vote do we want to cast into who we want to become, even just in this moment? Forget about the future, forget about the past. Who do I want to be right now? Just focusing on that, owning the truth. And to actually have that gratitude, to be able to feel it all. I know for myself, even knowing certain experiences of suffering helps me connect to other people, helps me understand other people that have suffered with these similar states of consciousness, of depression and feeling bad about yourself and all that stuff. So just allow yourself to just zoom out and remember that this whole experience is a thing of beauty. Even even the negative feelings. It's all still occurring within a divine mystery, a one giant mystical experience. And yeah, so with that, thanks for watching.